It looks like it's time for a new hit and upcoming YouTube countdown channel. Oh, no, wait, my watch is broken. Wait, I'm not even wearing a watch. Why? Fuck it. Roll the intro. Train levels. What better way is there to start a countdown channel than by talking about train levels? There isn't one. This is what I was getting at.
Trains have had their fair share of appearance in all media, and video games are no exception. They can be used as flashy set pieces, transportation, or as just a distraction for long game time. It's all good. Except maybe the last one, that one ain't so good. While train levels certainly aren't as abundant as, say, fire levels, they pop up more often than you would think. This list was originally going to be a top 5, but after jotting down 15 great train levels, I decided to extend it. There's just something about trains that I like for some reason, so to give them the recognition they truly deserve, I made a list about them. The only rules are only one per franchise, and that the levels have to have a train heavily featuring in some way in them. Whether you're on it, in it, or trying to attack it is not important. Let the choo-chewing begin. Let's start off this list with some Ninja Gaiden, or more specifically Ninja Gaiden 2 for the NES. Or more specifically Act 2-1 from Ninja Gaiden 2 for the NES. You know, a level with the train, go figure. For better or for worse, Ninja Gaiden 2 definitely had the most memorable levels, but 2-1 was one they got right. Weirdly, it's followed by the worst level in the game. Frickin' wind physics, oh my god, are you serious? That's total horseshit! 2-1 itself is quite short, and gameplay-wise there's not really much to it. It's just a normal flat level with slight gaps between the carriages that you can't even fall down. But the presentation is what really makes it. The setting of running across a moving train beating people up makes me feel like I'm in an action film. And the music? It's pretty special. I also like how instead of getting its difficulty from cheap pit deaths, this level is more of an endurance test. Unfortunately, however, because the level itself is so short, like really short, and because Tecmo gave our favourite ninja a little too much health, this level becomes incredibly easy. Like, it's almost impossible to die unless you decide to run head first into every enemy easy. Nice going. Dat train level from GoldenEye. Oh no, not that GoldenEye. N64 GoldenEye had a pretty decent train level, and is one of the first levels to prove that train carriages make an awesome set piece for first-person shooters, but it just so happens to have the problem of being released on GoldenEye for the N64, a game which has aged about as well as milk in a store cupboard. I'll take the 2010 Wii any day of the week. The newer version of the original's train level, called Station, is pretty much an expanded version of Train from GoldenEye 98, mainly because instead of just exploring the train, you also explore, would you believe it, station. Following on from the awesome tank level, Station sees Bond corner Oramov in a partially completed station within St. Petersburg before confronting him and saving Natalia. As I said, train carriages make an awesome set piece for FPSs, which this level takes advantage of, but also uses tunnels and construction obstacles to make a thrilling stage, and probably the best GoldenEye stage to play online. Station is a very fun level, with enough great set pieces and epic moments to make it truly stand out amongst gaming's expanse of trains. Charge Man. He's a man who's a robot who's a train. Okay, fair enough. Wait, what? What is this guy's practical use in society? He can't be used as an actual train because he's too small, so what's the point of having him? Does he entertain at children's parties? Is he a football mascot? I know I could also question the credibility of what a Gemini Man is or what a Star Man does, and quite frankly I don't really want to know where Hard Man's area of expertise lies. Just throw in Flash and Woodman, you'll have the official staff list for the Wily Castle Strip Club. But I'll stop before I get any more distracted making fun out of Charge Man or any other Robot Master, because believe me, there's a lot to make fun out of. But hey, I actually quite like Charge Man's stage and fight, and it's a good job this isn't a top Robot Masters list, because otherwise he'd be way down but what may be the worst power-up in Mega Man history. Charge Man's stage starts off in what looks like a train station, and before you know it you're on a train, then you're in a train, then you're fighting a train. Even the Mets get decked out with trains as they take one shot and then just truck you. And in the cabin we've got chickens. According to the Mega Man wiki, Chargeman is used for making shipments to Wily, and he's transporting chickens. I don't know what you're planning, Wily, but I've had enough. But what really cements this stage on the list is how you're fighting a train in a train surrounded by trains. It's like fucking Trainception. The shit just blew my mind when I started to think about it. Mega Man 5 once again proves that you don't need originality to make a good game, you just need trains. No, wait, that's not what I meant to say. Perhaps a slightly underrated 2D platformer in my mind, Wario Land the Shake Dimension does a heck of a lot right. Its levels are one of those things, and wouldn't you know it, one of them's got a train in it. The wreck train goes like any other Wario Land level. Explore the level, find all the hidden treasures, grab as much cash as you can, find the important item, in this case the Murphle, then run back to your teleport as quickly as possible. Bada bing, bada boom. So while thematically or cinematically there's not much that can be done, this level delivers in its music, visuals and level design to make an extremely solid level. Firstly, the graphics. 2D platformers and hand-drawn visuals go together better than Skittles and cornflakes. You haven't tried it, you can't judge me. What I'm trying to say is it looks pretty good. It's got a really nice rustic sort of feel, and it manages to capture a good sense of motion. The music? It's awesome. It feels like it's got the rhythm of a train, made in part by the train sounds in the background, and it makes the whole level seem like a big, action-packed adventure, which is good. Level design is nothing spectacular. It's one of the earlier levels after all, but it uses its structure to feel particularly trainy. It's far shorter and wider than most of the other stages in the game for one. Also, the sections above the train are only lightly decorated with just a few boxes and such that you can run across at the end, and the sections in the cabins and engine rooms are full of obstacles and puzzles. It's not much, but I thought I'd point it out anyway. The wreck train is a pretty awesome level. The design and structure is well thought out, but it's really made by the presentation, the great graphics and music. It all creates a level well worthy of being on a list about levels with trains. The next level is not only a train level, but also a tank level. Still not got it? What if I told you it also shared the name of a Shakespearean play? Yeah, that's right. It's frickin' Macbeth from Lilac Wars. I was torn over whether this would count as a train level, but then I thought, it's got a train in it. It's a pretty big element of the level. It counts. In this level, you drive the Landmaster and have to evade falling rocks and shoot towers, ships, and you guessed it, the train.
Come a little closer!
I don't know the name of the guy driving the train, but I do know this. He's an asshole. Driving the Landmaster is fun as always, and the whole level is suitably cinematic for Star Fox standards. There's a tongue twister and a half. It constantly keeps things varied with new obstacles and enemies, and keeping up with the train adds a nice layer of tension. Once the train has taken enough beating, Mr. McDouchebag sends out his last line of defense, the Macbeth, which you can either destroy or just change the track so his train goes straight into the station and explodes, which is made mostly by this amusing cutscene. I think the more entertaining option is obvious. The Spirit Tracks, from Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Mittens. Oh no, wait, that's not right at all. By far the biggest complaint with Spirit Tracks was the fact that instead of traversing your world by horse, boat, or Pegasus boots, you were riding a frickin' train. I don't know quite why this was such a big deal. Maybe it's just the fact that some people aren't comfortable with the fact that the series that they grew up with actually has the balls to change and evolve each title and just believe that every future Zelda game should just be a rehash of Link to the Past. But that rant's for another video. The Spirit Tracks are basically the overworld of Spirit Tracks, but also have some plot significance to boot, and are generally fun to traverse across. They're split up into 4 main quadrants: Forest Realm, Snow Realm, Ocean Realm, which also encompasses the Sand Realm, and Fire Realm, with other areas such as the Ocean Floor and Dark Realm accessible a little later on. On the rails, you control the Spirit Train. You can shoot stuff, you can catch bunnies, and you can pull your horn, which is far more enjoyable than it should be. As for the music, there's nothing left to be desired. I also like how you have to map out a path for yourself, but you can still choose to not follow that path. It's a nice compromise between the total freedom of Wind Waker and the restrictiveness of Phantom Hourglass. But what really makes the Spirit Tracks stand out as one of the best Zelda overworlds to me is their backstory. When Maladus came into being, the spirits of good couldn't destroy him and so decided to trap him in the ground with train tracks forming chains and a tower forming a lock. The tower became the Tower of Spirits, and the train tracks, I think you can work it out. It was a pretty cool plot device and made the disappearance of the spirit tracks seem so much more desperate as Maladus was literally breaking free. I'll take it over Phantom Hourglass's boring Great Sea any day of the week. Admittedly, I'm not the most knowledgeable about the Sly series. It's one I'm just getting into, but I have to give credit when trains are due. I mean, I have to train when credit is due. I mean, I train to give credit when train is due. The train level. He Who Tames the Iron Horse is a pretty fun level. It features great platforming in, on, and around the train cabins, satisfying stealth sections, and even a couple of plane fights with Naylor. Chapter 6 takes place in Canada and features Sly and the gang trying to steal the clockwork pieces held by Jean Bison, who uses them as a means to make his vehicles run 24/7. Can you guess what the vehicles are? P.S. they're trains. The level is pretty much centered around the trains, or iron horses, and is set in a Canadian town full of moose, because racial stereotype. The whole area is full of rails, which themselves are full of trains. I think Sly 2's cel-shaded art design really shines in this area. I love the aesthetic design. It fuses the grimy stealth feel with the cartoony, you're still technically playing as woodland creatures feel to near perfection. And it all boils down to having a really immersive and enveloping atmosphere. This level has you... well, what do you think happens? The game's called Sly 2 Band of Thieves, so you're in a band of sorts and you steal stuff. In trains, on trains, about trains, it's all good. Although I do have to give extra credit for how awesome the final mission is. Stealthing your way past the main villain, escaping the attention of some balls-stupid moose, and even a couple of dogfights against Naylor. It's really well paced and easily the highlight of the chapter thanks to its superb platforming. He Who Tames the Iron Horse, what is that name? It's one of the more memorable Sly levels for its atmosphere, level design and charm, and deserves a place on any train level list. Even mine. The level design has never really been the Layton series' strong point, but when it comes to atmosphere or build-up, the Millennium Express is truly in a class of its own. Or should that be Class A? Aha! What's that? I shouldn't put a level that's basically just a few static images with NPCs in it so high on the list? Screw you, that's what. I'm sorry, that was out of line. The Millennium Express has class, it has sophistication, it has... the cabins? Okay, there's nothing too incredible or groundbreaking about the Millennium Express, but I don't think there needs to be. It's extremely atmospheric and just memorable to explore. The train in question is visited many times throughout the course of Luke and Layton's second DS adventure, and although ultimately it doesn't have much to do with the story, it is what transports you to most of the locations in the game and does take up a lot of game time. Places inside the train include the various cabins, the dining car, and the observation deck. The presentation of the train also deserves praise. Not only do the locations look nice, emanating a warm, cozy feel, but the way the Millennium Express is talked about in-game just make it feel that bit more special. This isn't just any train, this is the Millennium Express, the frickin' cruise ship on rails. But don't just take it from me, just hear what Luke has to say about it.
This sofa's great!
Oh, Luke, how you ruined such a sophisticated game. The Professor Layton series is not for everyone. As much as I love it, I'll admit to that. The concept of exploring a posh train solving puzzles for the folk inside it may not sound like much to some, but it's pretty enjoyable and surprisingly immersive. Immersive mainly for the likability of the passengers, namely Sammy Thunder, Chester, and Mr. Beluga. Though personally, I blame the music. The Millennium Express may not initially look like much, but its prestige, presentation, and overall charm make it stand out from other areas in Professor Layton games and other train levels in gaming. The train levels from Uncharted 2 just had to be on the list. They just had to. When you think of trains in video games, these are the examples most people tend to name. They're flashy, they're stylish, they're well thought out, and they're just solid train levels in every sense of the word. I mean, they've got trains in them and everything. When I say the train levels, I mean chapters 13 and 14. Yes, chapters 12 and 15 are vaguely trainy, but the real beef of the more trainy stuff comes in chapters 13, locomotion, and chapters 14, tunnel vision. Chapters 12 and 15 just aren't up to the train standards of a train level needed to make my train list. Trains. Chapter 12 ends with a survival segment where Drake is stuck in an overturned train carriage, but it's not until he jumps onto the moving train that the fun really begins. Chapter 13 is set in a jungle environment as you climb through the cabins of the train. As I said, the structure of a train is an awesome set piece for FPSs, and Uncharted 2 shows this the best, with brilliantly paced shooting sections mixed with platforming and fighting. Pacing in particular is done really well throughout Uncharted 2, and this level is no exception. It really makes you feel like you're in an action movie, especially when you get ambushed by a helicopter and have to blow it up with an RPG. Yeah, that bit is particularly awesome. Chapter 14, Tunnel Vision, is a little more platform heavy, but has enough shooting sections to keep things interesting as well. The claustrophobic environments of the cabins are really put to good use here, and the set pieces themselves are pretty interesting. The end of this level sees you being attacked by a guy with a minigun, then using a minigun to take out another helicopter. Jeez, just leave the poor guy alone. Then, after a long but entertaining cutscene, the story here is wrapped up and it leads on to Chapter 15, Trainwrecked, because the train gets pretty severely wrecked. The train levels in Uncharted 2 deliver on pace, action and platforming. They all tie together to make an epic experience, and truly a train level amongst the gaming greats. In fact, there's only one greater. Let's go through a recap before looking at the ultimate on-rails experience. You know, I'm beginning to think I made this entire countdown for that one pun. There was that, bit of that, a little bit of this, that, and then this. Done. Now we end with a game very close to my heart, Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door with the XS Express. When it comes to train levels in video games, the XS Express is the full package. Classy cabins with interesting NPCs to interact with, an epic boss fight on top of the train while it's moving. This segment even has a section in a station with some nice puzzle solving and platforming areas. It's just cool, you know? The journey takes place within 3 days, and time progresses as certain actions are completed. On the first day, you meet the train goers and allow the music to soothe your soul as you solve the mystery of the missing stew pot, get a birthday present for Bob, and find a diary for the blanket-nabbing ghost. The atmosphere inside the cabins is very cozy and inviting, and it helps to make the whole experience more immersive and enjoyable. The train itself is pretty complete too, with a baggage area, an engine area, a dining hall and a gift shop, as well as the multitude of cabins with many interesting characters. On the topic of characters, Day 1 sees you meeting a lot of them, my favourites being the Conductor, the Bob-on family, Ghost T, and of course, Pennington. Day 2 opens with the threat of terrorism, as Pennington and the business rat, I guess, inform you that the stolen nitro syrup plans, pearl earrings, and gold ring could be used to create a bomb that will lead to a sticky, yummy end. Which sounds bad at first, but is, statistically, the most delicious way to die. Soon you find out that Duplis, that bastard from Creepy Steeple, is behind the scheme and is disguised as Zip Toad, no less. He turns up the drawbridge at Riverside Station, which leads to one of the best platforming segments in the game. I love how this area uses so many of your allies and abilities without feeling forced, and manages to introduce a new item to boot. Just before re-flipping the switch, you encounter the cloud of weird black blobs that will later be known as the Smorg. Day 3 ends the journey at Poshley Heights, but not before the Smorg we saw earlier breaks into the train and kidnaps all the passengers. Well, shit. The final fight on the roof of the XS Express is pretty awesome and surprisingly epic. Definitely one of the more underrated boss fights in the Mario franchise. The whole XS Express segment, which come to think of it is pretty much most of Chapter 6, is a blast to play through. It's quirky, it's fun, it's occasionally awesome, and it's overall just really clever and unique. It's the train level that train levels dream of being, and well worthy of the #1 place on this countdown. I'm Mr. 12603, and thanks for watching.
God, you're at the end of this video, which may or may not mean that you've watched the whole of this countdown. Well done, you. This was my first video on this channel, so I'm assuming it's going to be like the worst thing ever. Constructive criticism would be welcome. You can put some down there in the comment section. That is if I can read it with this shitty new comment system, am I right? Sorry, I wrote this script when that was still relevant. Though, knowing YouTube's record, they've probably just buggered it up again. Anyways, that was my first video, so I'll put some links up around here to future videos when I've made them. So if you're watching this in the future, you can click on those with your mind, on your Google Glass, on Mars, if that is how you so wish. On my next countdown, I'll be upgrading from locomotives to hovercars as I give you my top 5 F-Zero games. It's gonna be a doozy. Cheerio.